Bella had always been more than just a dog to her family. She was their protector, their companion, their silent strength. The golden retriever's fur gleamed like the sun itself, soft and warm. Bella's presence was a calming force in the house, her gentle eyes, always watchful, her soft whine when she sensed trouble. To the parents, she was a loyal friend. To Emma, she was everything, a playful, constant companion. Bella's bond with the baby went beyond the realm of simple affection. It was instinctual, a silent understanding that no words could describe. Bella had known from the moment Emma had come home from the hospital, tiny and fragile, that her role was clear: to protect, to love, to stay by her side through every milestone. There were moments when Bella and Emma seemed to communicate without words. Emma would giggle, her small hands reaching out to grasp Bella's fur, and Bella would nuzzle her gently, her tail wagging in perfect rhythm with the baby's joyful sounds. Every cry, every shift of Emma's tiny body, Bella sensed it. Her instincts, sharp as ever, guided her in those moments. When Emma was sad, Bella would curl up next to her, offering warmth and comfort. When Emma took her first steps, Bella stood by her, as if keeping watch, ready to catch her if she fell. The bond between them was unspoken but undeniable. A deep connection, woven through years of shared moments, looks, and soft touches. But that morning, something shifted. It wasn't obvious at first, just a playful interaction between the two. Bella wagging her tail as Emma giggled, her small hands reaching out. In a split second, something changed. Bella's instinct told her to nudge Emma away from the edge of the couch. But the movement was too sudden, too forceful. A sharp scratch, a slight nip of her paw against Emma's arm. It wasn't intentional. Bella's heart dropped as she watched Emma's face twist in surprise and mild pain. The baby's innocent eyes looked up at her, confused, as if wondering why her protector had hurt her. Bella froze, uncertain of what had just happened. Had she done something wrong? Her heart began to race, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on her chest. The moment did not go unnoticed. Emma's parents rushed into the room, their faces painted with alarm. What happened? They cried, their voices sharp with fear. They looked at Bella, their eyes now filled with confusion, even suspicion. Bella, who had always been gentle, protective, and calm, had caused harm. The parents didn't understand. They couldn't. How could their beloved dog, the one who had stood by them through so many highs and lows, hurt their precious Emma? The parents began to question Bella's intentions. Was she dangerous now? Was the bond they once trusted now tainted by something darker? Bella's ears flattened against her head as she lowered her gaze, her tail curling under her body in submission. She didn't understand why they were looking at her like this. She was only trying to protect Emma, to keep her safe. Bella retreated to a quiet corner of the room, her heart heavy with the weight of their reactions. The family was her world. To feel the distance between them now was unbearable. Her mind raced, trying to understand what had gone wrong. She never meant to hurt Emma. She had only tried to keep her safe, as she had always done. But in that moment, she felt as if she had failed. She felt lost. Her instinct to protect had been misinterpreted. And now the very family she had devoted her life to seemed to doubt her. Bella lay in her corner, her eyes filled with uncertainty, her body trembling slightly. She longed for the warmth of Emma's small hands again, the familiar sound of laughter, but the space between them felt vast now. Bella didn't know how to bridge the gap. She didn't know how to fix what had gone wrong. Bella lay on the cold floor, her body curled tightly, as if trying to make herself small, invisible. Her mind whirled with the memory of the moment she had scratched Emma. It had been an accident. She had only meant to guide Emma, to keep her safe, but the mark on the baby's arm seemed like a scar on Bella's heart. She had failed. Her instinct to protect had caused harm, and that confusion gnawed at her every moment. How could this have happened? Her paws trembled slightly as she remembered Emma's shocked eyes, the cry that followed. Bella's chest tightened. She never wanted to hurt Emma. Emma was her world, her responsibility. But now, with the family's harsh reaction still echoing in her ears, Bella wondered if she had become a threat, not a protector. Could she still be trusted? The warmth she once felt when Emma's tiny hand reached out to her now felt like a distant memory, replaced by cold uncertainty. Bella retreated to the darkest corner of the house, her fur heavy with the weight of her guilt. She lay there for hours, watching the shadows stretch and grow, feeling her heart become just as hollow. What had gone wrong? Her loyalty had always been unwavering. Her devotion to Emma had been pure, yet now, the bond she had fought so hard to build seemed to be slipping away. Bella's tail lay still at her side, the usual wag of affection and excitement gone. It was replaced by a dull ache deep in her chest. She had always protected Emma, but now, she felt as though her very presence had become a threat to the family she loved. What if she no longer belonged here? What if her protective instincts had made her a danger to the one she was meant to care for? The silence in the house was deafening. She could feel the distance between her and the family growing with each passing moment. Bella, once the loving companion, now felt like a stranger in the place she had always called home. Meanwhile, the parents sat together, their faces drawn, their hearts torn between the love they felt for Bella and the fear that gripped them after the incident. They replayed the events over and over in their minds, searching for an answer. Emma, innocent and unaware, had been playing, laughing, when Bella's sharp claw had caught her arm. But what had really happened? The parents reflected on the morning, looking for clues, trying to understand why Bella had acted that way. Emma's rough play, once seen as harmless, now seemed more dangerous through the lens of Bella's protective instincts. Had Bella interpreted Emma's play as a threat? Had she seen something in Emma's movements that the parents couldn't? The parents felt torn. They loved Bella deeply, but could they trust her to be around their baby? They wrestled with the idea of keeping Bella, unsure whether her love and loyalty had become too much of a risk. The house felt heavy with uncertainty. Bella's place in the family seemed unclear, and the parents wondered whether they had misjudged the situation. As the hours passed, the parents' conversation grew quieter, more reflective. Slowly, the truth began to unravel. Emma had been playing in a way that Bella, with her sharp instincts, might have seen as a potential threat. She had been too close to the edge of the couch, her small hands reaching out recklessly. Bella, in her protective nature, had seen the danger before anyone else. The scratch had not been an act of malice. It had been an attempt to nudge Emma away from harm. Bella's sharp senses, honed over years of companionship, had picked up on something the parents hadn't. The instinct to protect had driven Bella's actions. She wasn't trying to hurt Emma. She had only wanted to guide her, to keep her safe. The parents, as they began to understand this, felt a wave of relief, mixed with guilt. They had doubted Bella, had assumed the worst of her actions. But the truth was clearer now. Bella had acted out of love as she always had. Her intentions were pure. But even with this realization, the damage had been done. The strain between Bella and the family had deepened. Bella could feel it in the air. Every glance was heavier, every step more cautious. The uncertain murmurs and whispered conversations felt like a wall between her and the family. The love they had once shared now seemed distant, clouded by fear and doubt. Bella's heart sank further as she tried to approach them, only to be met with guarded eyes. Her tail, once eager and full of life, now hung low, the wagging stilled. She didn't know how to fix what had happened. The bond she had worked so hard to build was strained, perhaps irreparably. Bella felt as though she were walking on a thin line, unsure whether she would be allowed to stay in the place she had always considered home. The uncertainty gnawed at her, each moment more painful than the last. Could she ever go back to being the protector, the loyal companion she had always been? As days passed, Bella withdrew even further. The love she had once felt for her family now seemed like a fading memory. The house, once warm and familiar, felt cold and distant. Bella spent more time alone, retreating to her corner, her eyes always seeking Emma, longing for the touch of her small hand. But Emma, too, seemed distant. The bond they had shared was now a shadow, a fragile memory tainted by the misunderstanding. Bella's heart ached with a deep, aching emptiness. She missed the days when Emma would giggle, her tiny fingers tugging at Bella's fur, when their connection had been simple and pure. Now, even Emma's presence felt like a reminder of what had been lost. Bella no longer felt like the protector. She felt like a ghost in the house, unseen, unheard, unloved. The loneliness settled over her, and the uncertainty of her place in the family became unbearable. Her spirit, once so vibrant, was beginning to wither under the weight of isolation. Bella could only hope that one day, the love she had for Emma would be enough to bring them back together. But for now, she was adrift, lost in the silence of a family that had once been her world. The house was quiet, save for the soft hum of distant voices in the other room. Bella's ears perked up, her nose twitching as she sensed something wasn't right. She had grown so accustomed to the sounds of the house, to Emma's soft giggles and the familiar rhythm of family life. But now there was a stillness, a tension. Bella's eyes darted around the room, searching. It wasn't long before she saw it. Emma, crawling toward the stairs, her tiny hands reaching the edge, oblivious to the danger ahead. Bella's heart skipped a beat. The stairs were steep, the drop dangerous for a baby so small. Without a moment's hesitation, Bella sprang into action. Her paws moved faster than they ever had before, her body fueled by a deep, primal instinct to protect. She couldn't let Emma get any closer to the stairs. She had to stop her. She had to keep her safe. The world around Bella seemed to narrow to just one thing: Emma's safety. Bella's mind raced as she bounded toward Emma. The urgency of the moment surged through her limbs, and her instincts took over, pushing her forward without thinking. She reached Emma just as the baby's hand touched the first step. Bella's muzzle nudged at Emma's back, trying to pull her away, but in her rush, something went wrong. Bella's paw brushed against Emma's side, sending the baby toppling backward, her tiny body tumbling toward the floor. Bella froze. Her heart dropped into her stomach. The sound of Emma's cry pierced the air, and in that instant, everything fell away except for one thought. She had hurt Emma, the very thing she had tried to prevent. Bella stood motionless, her breath shallow, her heart heavy with fear and guilt. She had meant to protect, but her desperate actions had caused the harm she feared most. Her body trembled as she waited for the inevitable consequences. What had she done? The sound of Emma's cry sent a shockwave through the house. The parents burst into the room, their faces pale with panic. Sarah and Mark rushed to Emma's side, their hands shaking as they checked their baby, who was now lying on the floor, frightened and crying. Bella stood back, watching helplessly from a distance, her tail tucked low in shame. Her ears drooped, and she could feel the weight of her actions crushing her. The parents didn't even look at her. They were too focused on Emma. Their voices, though filled with concern for their daughter, had an edge of fear, of confusion. What happened? Sarah's voice was tight. Mark's eyes darted between Emma and Bella. The trust they had once had for the dog now clouded by doubt. Bella couldn't speak. She couldn't explain that she had only been trying to save Emma, that her love for the baby had driven her to act. All she could do was watch, paralyzed with the fear that her one mistake might cost her everything. The family's worried eyes, the tension in the air. It all felt like a judgment that Bella couldn't escape. She had failed. As Emma was comforted in Sarah's arms, the parents exchanged a glance. The room seemed to grow colder, and Bella's chest tightened. She could feel the shift in their demeanor, their suspicion, their doubt. It was as if the love they had once shown her was being pulled away, piece by piece, replaced by uncertainty. Was this her fault? Mark asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Can we trust her with Emma? The words hit Bella like a physical blow. She had always been the protector, the one they could rely on. Now they were questioning her very nature. The weight of their judgment crushed her spirit. Bella couldn't find the words to defend herself. She had acted out of love, out of an instinct she couldn't control, but how could she make them understand that? She felt as if the bond she had worked so hard to build was now unraveling. What if they couldn't trust her anymore? What if the love they had for her was gone forever? Bella turned away, retreating into the shadows, her heart heavy with the realization that she might have lost everything she held dear. Bella curled up in a corner, her eyes distant, staring into the empty space before her. The house felt suffocating, filled with the echoes of her guilt and the strain between her and the family. She could hear Emma's cries soften, but it didn't matter. Bella felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness, a crushing isolation that made it hard to breathe. She had failed Emma, the one she had sworn to protect, the one she had loved with all her heart. Now it seemed as though that love had betrayed her. Bella's head hung low, and she felt the sting of rejection in every part of her being. The house that had once been her sanctuary now felt like a prison. The family's uncertainty had seeped into her heart, leaving her with nothing but sorrow and regret. She had tried her best, but her best hadn't been enough. Bella's world had shattered in an instant, and she wasn't sure if it could ever be repaired. As the hours passed, Sarah sat silently, rocking Emma gently in her arms, her mind racing. The scene played over and over in her head, and slowly, a realization began to dawn on her. She had seen Bella's protectiveness for years, had watched as the dog stayed by Emma's side, always keeping watch, always guarding her. Bella had never once shown aggression, never once acted out of malice. Sarah's heart softened as she thought about what had happened. Bella's actions had been driven by love. She had only tried to keep Emma safe, to prevent something that could have been far worse. Sarah's eyes filled with understanding, and she felt the weight of her own guilt for doubting Bella. She stood up, Emma still in her arms, and walked slowly toward Bella, who was curled in the corner, her eyes empty with sorrow. "Bella," Sarah whispered softly, her voice trembling. "I'm sorry. You were just trying to protect her." "I know you were." Bella's ears perked up, and she looked up at Sarah with hesitant eyes. Slowly, Sarah knelt down and wrapped her arms around the dog, pulling her close. Bella's body relaxed in her embrace, her heart pounding with relief. "I forgive you," Sarah murmured, her voice full of warmth and love. "You're still a part of this family. You always will be." For the first time since the incident, Bella felt a flicker of hope, a glimmer of the trust she had feared lost forever. As Sarah held Bella, the world seemed to shift. The weight of the tension between them, the fear and doubt that had clouded everything, began to lift. Bella's body relaxed as Sarah's gentle touch reassured her. The bond that had once seemed shattered was now being mended, piece by piece. Bella's tail gave a tentative wag, then another, until it was wagging fully, her heart light once again. She had been forgiven. Her actions had been misunderstood, but they were born from love, and that love had been enough. Sarah smiled, her eyes full of tenderness. "You've always been our protector, Bella," she whispered. "And you always will be." The relief that flooded through Bella was overwhelming. She nuzzled Sarah's hand, her heart swelling with gratitude. The family was whole again, and Bella's place in their hearts was secure. As the days passed, the memory of that moment became just another chapter in their story, a reminder of how love, even in its most desperate forms, can heal and bring people and animals closer together. Bella had proven once again that her love for Emma and her instinct to protect would always be her guiding light. And as she lay at the foot of the stairs, watching over Emma, Bella knew her place in the family had never been clearer. Days passed, each one heavier than the last. The air in the house, once warm and filled with laughter, had become quiet, filled with the weight of unspoken thoughts. Bella, ever the attentive and watchful one, could sense the change. She could feel the tension between her and her family, the distance growing with every passing moment. Though the house was still filled with love, something had shifted, something that made her heart ache in ways she hadn't felt before. She missed the carefree days when she could run around the yard with Emma, when she could curl up at Sarah's feet without fear of rejection. But now, it was as though the walls had closed in, separating them from her. Sarah and Mark had spent hours reflecting on the events of that morning. They had talked late into the night, voices low, eyes tired. The fear they had felt in that instant when Emma had fallen was overwhelming. But as the days passed, they realized that fear had clouded their judgment. They had reacted in panic, not taking the time to understand the full picture. Bella had been trying to protect Emma, not harm her. The more they thought about it, the clearer it became. They had misunderstood her intentions, and in doing so, they had wounded their bond with her. And now, with that realization, they had to make things right. One evening, as the sun began to dip behind the horizon, Sarah and Mark approached Bella with heavy hearts. Sarah was the first to kneel down in front of her, her voice soft and filled with regret. Mark stood beside her, his expression full of sorrow. Their eyes locked with Bella's, and for a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Sarah reached out and gently stroked Bella's fur, her hands trembling slightly. The words she spoke were slow, deliberate, but filled with genuine remorse. She told Bella how sorry they were, how they had misjudged her, and how they now understood what had truly happened. Mark added his own apology, his voice breaking slightly as he spoke of how much they appreciated Bella's love and loyalty. Bella's ears perked up, her head lifting slightly as she absorbed their words. Her heart, once heavy with doubt, began to lighten. She could feel the sincerity in their voices, and though she couldn't understand every word, the warmth in their touch and the softness in their eyes spoke volumes. Slowly, her tail gave a cautious wag, a small but significant sign that she was listening, that she was beginning to heal. For the first time in days, Bella felt the weight of her guilt begin to lift. She wasn't perfect, but she was loved, and that was enough. Over the next few days, Bella began to feel a shift in the atmosphere. It was as if the house had come alive again. Sarah and Mark made a conscious effort to spend time with her, to reconnect in ways they hadn't before. The distance between them had been bridged, piece by piece, with every touch, every kind word, every shared moment. The bond that had once felt fragile was now stronger than ever. Bella could sense the change in Sarah and Mark. They no longer looked at her with the same uncertainty, the same fear that had plagued their thoughts in the wake of the accident. Instead, they looked at her with love and understanding, with eyes that saw her for who she truly was. She was no longer just a dog. She was a part of their family, an irreplaceable piece of their hearts. The emotional distance that had plagued her now seemed like a distant memory, replaced by the warmth of their acceptance. The days grew longer, and Bella found herself once again lying at the foot of Emma's crib, watching over the little girl with the same vigilance she had always had. But now there was no fear, no doubt clouding her thoughts. She knew, deep in her heart, that she had a place here. She was needed. She was loved. When Emma crawled toward her, Bella nudged her gently, guiding her away from the edge of the stairs, her movements filled with tenderness. She no longer felt the panic that had once gripped her heart in moments like these. She had learned to trust herself again, to trust that her instincts were not something to be feared, but something to be valued. She had a purpose in this family, and that purpose was to protect, to love, and to be there when they needed her most. Bella's journey from confusion and guilt to reconciliation was not just a personal one. It was a lesson for her family as well. In the wake of the incident, Sarah and Mark had learned something important about the way they interacted with Bella. They had always known her as loyal and protective, but they had taken her instincts for granted. It wasn't until they saw how deeply their actions had hurt her that they began to understand the true depth of Bella's emotions. Through this experience, they learned the importance of patience. They realized that animals, like humans, have complex emotions, needs, and instincts. Bella had acted out of love, out of a desire to protect, but her actions had been misunderstood. It took time, but Sarah and Mark had learned to be more patient with her, to understand her better, and to trust her more fully. The family also learned the power of forgiveness, not just for Bella, but for themselves. They had acted out of fear, out of a desire to protect Emma, and in doing so, they had unintentionally harmed the one creature who had always been there to protect them. But through their apology and Bella's forgiveness, they had begun to heal. The lesson was clear. In any relationship, patience, understanding, and forgiveness were key to moving forward, to rebuilding trust and love. In the days that followed, Bella's bond with her family grew even stronger. The love that had always been there was now reinforced by their shared journey. Bella's loyalty, which had never wavered, was now matched by the family's understanding and trust. The emotional connection between them deepened, and Bella began to see her role within the family more clearly. She was more than just a protector. She was a beloved member of the family, a companion, and a friend. Sarah, Mark, and even Emma began to show their appreciation for Bella in small ways. Extra pats, kind words, moments of shared joy. Bella felt her heart swell with love and gratitude. The pain of the past was now replaced with a deep sense of contentment, and she no longer feared that she would lose the family she had protected for so long. The family, too, recognized the depth of Bella's love. They understood now that her actions, though sometimes misunderstood, were always driven by a desire to protect them, to keep them safe. They realized that Bella's loyalty was a gift, one they would cherish and honor for the rest of their lives. In the end, Bella's journey was a story of love, forgiveness, and growth. The family had learned the importance of empathy, of taking the time to understand the emotions and instincts of their loyal companion. Bella had taught them that love wasn't always about being perfect. It was about showing up, about doing your best, and about always acting with the purest intentions. Her love for them had never faltered, and in the end, it was that love that healed the wounds and strengthened their bond. The family learned that empathy was the foundation of any strong relationship, human or animal, and that understanding and compassion were the keys to building trust and love that would last a lifetime. If you've been touched by Bella's journey, don't forget to like, comment, and share her story with others who need a reminder of the power of love, trust, and forgiveness. Subscribe for more heartwarming tales of animal loyalty and the incredible bonds we share with our furry companions.